This week you're reading chapter 13 in our course text. In this chapter, we're going to look at the value of print publications, especially newsletters, brochures, magazines, annual reports. And I do discuss in there, and our chapter does as well, how some of these can be turned into electronic documents. But we will focus on the more traditional print versions at this point. So you'll read that and listen to the lecture. And then this week you'll be creating one document, either a newsletter or a brochure. How do you decide? Well, think about who your client is for the purposes of this organization. Think about their needs and think about the goals you set in the client research report. What is also important is that you think about the audience, especially in terms of the newsletter. Is this going to be an internal newsletter directed to employees? Is this externally focused to existing customers? Is it sent to potential customers? Is it sent to a blending of the two? Regardless, you need to be very mindful about those decisions first, and that's going to help you decide whether you select the newsletter or brochure and then who it is directed to. Regardless of whether you select the newsletter brochure, both will result in the same one-page double-sided promotional document. And then with this, I am comfortable with you using an existing template that you use in Word or Publisher or one of the Adobe suites. You can find things online, but at the end of the day, as has been the case with each previous submission, it needs to look and feel like your client. And it also needs to reflect the principles forwarded in chapter 13. So making sure, again, that you're mindful in the stories that you write. If you're going with a newsletter, that we're thinking about the lead, we're thinking about that strong, succinct, clear writing. The same goes with the brochure, that I don't have more questions after looking at the brochure. Remember, we're always seeking to answer for our readers what's in it for me. So this newsletter brochure should help to do that for them. If you're using a specialized software, so something from Adobe, for example, or even sometimes with Publisher or Word, you might want to send this to me as a PDF so that it clearly reflects the layout that you intended. So, sometimes, especially through e-learning, it can distort some of the formatting. So if you need help with that, certainly shoot me an email and I can walk you through it. I also, this week, want to make you aware of a couple things that are coming in the next 2 weeks, because we're going to be wrapping up pretty quickly. And some of you will need or want more time with the e-portfolio than others. So you'll see that next week, actually, you're going to be tasked with creating a sitemap for your e-portfolio. There's already a video in next week's module that you can access now that will walk you through how to do that. A sitemap can sound very scary, but it's essentially just a visual representation of what your e-portfolio will look like. So it will show me and show you what will be displayed on the home page, what the different subheads are, so what different buttons I can click on, where I'm going to find different promotional tactics. So you might decide to organize based on the goals you forwarded in your client research report. You might decide it makes sense to organize based on traditional tactics like the press release and the brochure, for example, and then social media tactics. There really isn't a right or wrong answer. It depends on your client and the way in which you decide you want to present your material. So again, if you find you have some time this week, you might want to start thinking ahead of that. You're welcome to use whatever online software for your e-portfolio you choose. I have found students have the most luck with either WordPress.com or Wix.com, Wix.com. These are free sites. They're not going to ask you to pay for anything in the future. If you keep the e-portfolio going and you want to customize further and have it licensed to your name, then it might make sense to pay. I believe it's a small annual fee. Last semester it was $11 for a year, but For the purposes of this class, you don't have to pay for anything. But you might also, in these next couple weeks, start working on that, start uploading some of the documents, start making some design choices so that it's an easier process for you as you submit that in the 8th week. And finally, if you look ahead next week, you're also going to submit to me a resume. So for some of you, that mean creating a resume. And for others of you, it might simply mean, revisiting and updating a resume. I would like to encourage all of you to go to our Career Services Center to make an appointment with them. Even if it's just to have another set of eyes to proofread, right, then that is worth it. You don't have to pay. It's already part of your tuition dollars at work. So I would encourage you to go over there. You don't have to for the purposes of this class, but it is a really nice service available to you as a Western Michigan University student. So again, this week, all you are going to submit in Dropbox is either the newsletter or brochure. But I do want you to start thinking ahead, especially if you realize you have some vacation plans, you're busy with work, or you're taking other courses, because the ePortfolio does tend to be time consuming. I'd like you thinking about that sooner rather than later. Again, any questions, then reach out. I'm happy to help.